So I expected this to be a lot worse than it actually is. But it turns out this node is actually not that bad to do even at the 5-turn variation. So first let's go over the 3-turn version here. You're going to have to actually avoid the even CE from this event entirely if you want to do this, which is not great. But basically you can use any 3 50% starting charge CEs here. The two that actually kind of matter are the ones on Kichi Hogen, until you can get her to NP5 and Spartacus, but as long as it's one of the NP damage increasing ones, you should be fine. Arash kind of works with whatever, however. If you lack Arash's up and skills at an acceptable level here, you can also use Shakespeare here. For wave 2, you pop the Buster up from Shakespeare or Chen Gong on Spartacus, and then you plug suit into the Skadi. Skadi may be optional once Hogen is NP5, and at this point you basically pop everything else as well, and you will clean out the second wave with Spartacus. You may run into some damage issues here. If you get the quick or NP damage up from the random buffs at the start of the battle, you may be able to push through here if you add the plug suit buff into the mix as well. And of course for the third wave you will just use Kichi Hogen and that will more or less work. You should always prioritize using some of her or Spartacus's cards so you can cleanly finish this. But once you have NP5, especially if you're playing with Skadi, this will just work. For the second setup, it is basically the same one, however, we are adding Waver. You can probably do something similar to this without Waver, but you'll have to face guard the last wave to some degree. So first of all, obviously one of your servants is going to have the new CE. It is preferable that you have a level 100 CE on Chen Gong if possible, because his damage is the most important part here. Other than that, the CEs are largely interchangeable. Arash's CE does nothing but give the 50% charge. You may even be able to get away with using Dragon's Meridian there. As for the setup itself, it starts out the exact same way as before. In this case you cannot use Shakespeare, however, because you will actually need to NP with Chen Gong, so that is a consideration. You will need at least the up and skill unlocked for Arash. For the second turn, I suppose, you'll give all the NP charge from Castoria to Kichi Hogen, and the arts buff goes to Chen Gong. You can then pop both damage increasing skills from Kichi Hogen, although the quick buff should be spent on the third turn. Now, you have two options here. You can either use the plug suit buff here, or you can use the NP of Castoria. This does require the Castoria to have the mana loading up and unlocked if you want to do that, but it is an option. You may run into damage issues if you do just the plug suit path, so I would recommend using a Castoria that does have access to the NP. It is extra time spent, however, so experiment as you wish. For the third wave, you largely just use Kichi Hogen here. If you are trying to do this waverless, you might want to consider using Spartacus for this instead, similar to the first setup. For the third wave and the fourth turn, we will normally set up Spartacus here by giving him the Buster buff from Chen Gong and plug suiting into Waver. You don't need to hit any particularly high damage thresholds here, because you don't need to kill Rider Toki here. And of course, for the fifth turn, you will just use Kichi Hogen's NP again. Now, ideally, if you're trying to do this waverless somehow, you already used Spartacus's NP on the second wave, and you use Kichi Hoken here, so in that case, Kintoki should be gone, so all you need to do is face guard the two Tengus. Anyways, that's all from me. I'm kind of happy how these turned out, but unfortunately, a consistent waveless setup was just not in the cards.